Okay, welcome back. We're gonna flash back to algebra again, and we're gonna work on rearranging equations. So in this case, um, rearranging to solve for what for x. We're gonna solve for x. Okay, the horrible 4. Okay, so when you're rearranging equations and when you're rearranging equations, we're actually gonna work BEDMAS. We're gonna work it backwards. That's how you move things around first. So this is your process to solve the equation, is working backwards through BEDMAS. Okay, so what I'd recommend on your sheet, if you need to, write BEDMAS down so you know what to do. So if we're looking here, we're solving for x here. So working through BEDMAS here, we have to move. We don't have any subtractions, so we're going to move the addition over. Okay, and we're going to work with opposite inverse operation. So it's a plus on this side, so it becomes a minus on this side. On the sheet that you can fill out right now, I have the inverse operations up top as well. So now we have y minus 7 equals 2x. So now we look and we have multiplication, because this is 2 times x. 2 times x. So we're going to move the multiplication now. Inverse operation says it becomes a divide. Now, it becomes a divide with everything. So if we divide this side by 2, we divide everything by 2, which equals x. You could also write it y over 2 minus 7 over 2. That would be correct as well. Okay, so we're going to keep going down here. I have a bunch of examples on the side here we're just going to select from and run through these. So the big thing here is work backwards through your BEDMAS. This time we're going to solve for the x again. Okay, so let's take this over. So we have ax equals 2y plus y. And for some reason you can combine these. So that's going to be 3y, because those are like terms. Ax. Now we have a multiplication here. A times x, since there's nothing there. So when we move it over, it becomes a divide. So x equals 3y divided by a. You can look at it like this if you wish. Okay. And just like this side, if you want to look at it, oops, that should be a y there. Right. So I'm just going to run through these, as I realize I should have brought these down. Should move these over since I'll start working beside it. So all we're doing is just inverse operations all the way through and working backwards through BEDMAS. What we're going to work towards is we're actually going to start solving some equations where we need to solve for a different variable. So this one here, we're solving for x again. So let's move the addition and subtraction parts. So move those over. So we're left with ax on this side equals, I like to write down what's already over there, b first. Then this negative is going to become a positive, and this positive is going to become a negative. Now we have everything back here except for the coefficient with the variable. So a is the coefficient in this case. So we're left with that. We divide by the coefficient. Or if you want to think about inverse operation, it's a multiply. So when it comes over, it becomes a divide. X equals b plus y minus z divided by a. Okay. Actually, let's pull this one first. Now this one here, we're working through our BEDMAS. We have nothing else right now. Oh, actually we do. We have multiplication first. 2 times the bracket. Okay. So we have 2 times the bracket. So to get rid of this, we're going to divide by 2. divide by 2. So once we get rid of that 2, the bracket's going to disappear. So we're going to have x plus a equals y over 2. Then we're back to working backwards here. We have an addition. So we're going to move it over. So we're going to be left with x equals, I like to write down what's already over there so we don't forget about it. And the plus on this side, so it's going to become a minus. Okay. Lots of examples, but pretty simple concept. Simple, I'm not just saying simple because the steps are pretty predictable. Okay. So if I bring down my bed mass again, so that's what we're working backwards on whenever we're trying to isolate. So we're trying to find x. We're trying to find x here. So this is already on this side. So we're back to the same place here. We have a multiplied by this because you would distribute, right? So it's a multiplication. So we're going to divide by a on both sides, or multiplication becomes a division. So we have x plus y equals y bracket a plus z over a. Now we can't cancel these out, okay? Because they're inside the bracket, we can't cancel it out. Therefore, next step, we work backwards again, and we have an addition over here. So we bring it over, and it's going to become a minus. So it's going to be, we're going to write this down first, a plus z over a minus y. And we're all done. Okay, let's get into this one. Let's get smart. Okay, so this one here, we're working the same thing. This time we're solving for u. It's telling us to solve for u here this time. So we want u all by itself. So if we look here, u is here, but it currently has a letter in front, a variable in front, and a variable below. So if we go backwards here, now some of you would say, okay, let's do the subtraction first. But we can't because the subtraction is affected by division. Okay, so we have to go back and do the division first. So if the division on this side, when it comes over, becomes a multiplication, right? VU equals TA. Now you can also look at it like this. If I want to get rid of this, multiply this side by A, and what I do one side to the other side, and these two cancel out, right? But inverse operation, division on this side becomes a multiplication. Now we're free to get rid of the V. Okay, so we want to get rid of the V. Right now it's a plus V. It's plus V minus U. So we're going to move that over. And we have minus U equals TA, minus V. Now we're not done yet because there's a negative in front of here. If you think about it, there's a negative 1 there. So that's multiplication, negative 1 times U. So we divide by negative 1 on this side, divide by negative 1 on this side. And if we remember, whenever we divide by negative, it just flips the sign of everything. And there's our answer there. Now let's try this one. So what we have here, we're trying to isolate the x again. So we have a minus, so let's move it over. Okay, so we have square root x equals y plus 1. Now you'll tell me, hey, there's no bracket, there's no square root over here. Yeah, I know, but there's a square root. right? So you can think of that as kind of like a bracket, as really it's an exponent, because the square root is equal to x equals x to the power of a half. But you don't really need to know that right now, so let's just use it as an exponent. Now, if you look at the inverse operations there, what's the opposite of a square root? Well, the opposite of a square root is a square. So we're going to square both sides. And when we do that, this is going to disappear. And on this side, we're just going to leave it. Y plus 1 squared. Right. So let's grab this one. This now seems very familiar. So first thing we do, we have a subtraction here, so let's move that over. So x squared equals a squared plus 4. Now we have a square here. So we have to look at what's the inverse operation of square. Well, we had a square root up here, and the inverse of that was a square. So a square, the inverse operation would be to square root it. So we're going to square root both sides. Okay, and just we could do this all the way over, but for what I want to show you, we're going to do this. So the square root of x squared is x. Square root of a squared is a. Square root of 4 is 2. This is a lot here, and I'm just doing a bunch of examples. What we do in class will actually be this will be like the hardest one there is in class. Okay, but I like to show you everything, therefore you can kind of figure it out from there. So this one is actually pretty simple. So we're solving for x here. So let's take a look here. What's first? Okay, we have a addition here. So let's do opposite operations or inverse operations. So addition becomes a minus as we move it over. Then what's next? Well, we actually have a multiplication here. It's a squared times x. So the multiplication, when it moves over, inverse operations, multiplication becomes a division. And it looks like this, if we want to write it out. There we go. Now here's the one we need to know. So we want to solve on this one. We're solving for the r. Okay. So let's take a look here. Don't worry about this bracket, doesn't mean anything. What do we have here? Well, we have a multiplication. It's 4 over 3 times pi times r squared. So these are multiplications in here. So as we've seen, the inverse operation of multiplication is division. So we're going to move them over, and we're going to divide it by 4 over 3 pi equals r cubed. Now, do we have r yet? No. Right, those are not equal. We need r all by itself. So let's take a look at our chart there. What's the inverse operation of r cubed? Well, how do we get rid of a cubed? Well, how we got rid of a square? We had a square, we took the square root. So how do we get rid of a cube? Is we're going to take the third root, as in what number times itself 3 times, blank times blank times blank. That's the cube. Okay, so let's take the third root on this side, and what we do to one side, we need to do to the other. And just put it all inside. Scroll down a little bit, and we have, as an answer, we'll have 3 square root volume over 4 over 3 times pi equals r. So when you do your worksheet, have your bed mass in front of you here, right? Have this in front of you. Therefore, you can look at it plus your opposite operations, or your inverse operations. So you can take a peek and work backwards. It's just step by step, work backwards, and away you go. Okay, have a great day.